Yeah, the full council meeting was last night. We didn't finish till about 11 p.m. I was going to make a video about it, highlighting what went on, but due to the length of the meeting, it would be a really long video. What I've done is taken some snippets of the questions or arguments put forward by my own party, the Labour Party. But anyone wanting to see the full meeting, I will link it, and you can go and watch and see everything, everything that was said. It was quite a heated night. It was a heated debate. There was a lot being spoken about. As I explained kind of at the end of the video when I was walking out, which by the way I also managed to grab Max, so at the end of this video there's a little chat with Max. But yeah, the way the council's set up is it's a Conservative run council. There's 26 Tory councillors out of 48 councillors, so the others are Labour and Lib Dem, and we, Labour, are the third party in there. And that's important because the people, the councillors that are elected are the council and the people that make the decisions on how the councils run, and the people that affect your lives, as in how much things cost in the borough, your council tax, your rent, your bin collections, your car parking, your everything, which is what was discussed at this meeting, as well as the budget. And like I say, it was a long meeting. Even this video, I've tried to get it to as small as I can. It's still nearly, or about 20 minutes long, I think. But yeah, give the meeting a watch if you want to. It's there was some questionable sort of moments, and I think most of the motions were split between Tories and Labour and Lib Dem. So obviously they went in the direction that the Tories voted, except for one of them, if I remember rightly, Karen abstained from. But apart from that, it was all the Tories voting one way, Lib Dem, Labour voting the other. So yeah, it's quite interesting. It's interesting. But yeah, watch these few snippets, and if you want, go and watch the whole meeting. But it's important. It affects all of you, and affects, the borough, and I want to bring it to everyone. So everyone can see more of what goes on and the arguments that go on, and how these things affect all of you. Yeah, let's go to the council chamber.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, here we are in Groundhog Day once again. The council's budget's getting slimmed down, the services it delivers cut, and the costs our residents and our businesses pay increase. There's nothing in the reports that came through the Task and Finish Power Panel or here tonight that surprised me. It's the rinse and repeat job that we see every single year and have done for decades. The continued defenestration of our local authorities through unchecked austerity continues. No more cheers for this council's response to the pandemic. No more regard for the work we should be able to do and the safety we could provide. We just keep cutting. The axe is once again swung when this budget passes tonight and when the council tax bills go up in a few weeks' time, and it's left to residents of this borough to pick up the tab again. Now, I'm not sure if all members opposite regularly watched the news over the last few months, but spare cash is not a phrase that many of our residents are going to be uttering this year or indeed for years to come, and least of all those residents who depend on this council's services. We'll hear phrases tonight, I'm sure, along the lines of below inflation rises. Well, that's not really anything to brag about with the current state of inflation in this country. When we take money out of people's pockets, which we will through increased council tax and through increased fees and charges, That will leave our residents wondering how they're going to pay for the other skyrocketing essentials in their life, such as energy bills, food and transport. I seriously worry, I really do, that many residents of this borough are going to be further pushed into poverty as a result of this budget. You know, the numbers we're seeing going down in benefit claimants, I wonder whether that will stay the same as time goes on. The devil is in the detail with these below inflation rises, I say in inverted commas. But unfortunately, there's several items whose percentage increases are well above the rate of inflation, some of which are really important services our residents depend upon. I'll pick on just a few. Brown bins, up 25% to £50 per annum. If you're in a parking permitted area and you have a parking permit system, you get a first vehicle, that's up 33% to 40. And let's say you want your visitor to come round to your house and you get a pack of 20 visitors permits. That's up 82%. Now, all of these extra costs, they add up very quickly to what I can only describe as a second council tax bill. So somebody paying that, along with the increased council tax from this council and from the other councils, which I'm sure will come very soon down the line, and the increased rents if they're a council tenant, what on earth is that going to do to their home budgeting? What have residents got now from this council that's better than what they had 13 years ago? Now, to return to inflation-busting rises, and this really was one of my favourites, because it's one from Hatfield. You've got the new multi-storey, this wonderful thing this council supposedly built. Let's say you want a 3-month season ticket. That's up 90%. What a kick in the teeth for residents, struggling local businesses and employees. And what a great way of supporting Hatfield Town Centre. The simple fact of the matter, Madam Mayor, is that with all of these proposed increases, combined with those of years past, service uptake on this council will go down, and frankly, who can blame residents? Paying more for a brown bin collection, when recent collections over the past few weeks and months have been, let's say, sporadic at best, where the hell's the logic in that? Madam Mayor, the simple fact of the matter is, after years of compound increase in charges, residents of Welwyn Hatfield can simply no longer afford a Conservative-led council. They're paying the price in more ways than one: increased charges, increased taxes, fewer services and failing services. And I've no doubt that members opposite will sit there tonight and applaud all of this. These aren't difficult decisions, they're the wrong ones. It's based on the wrong ideology from a party in government far too long who, quite simply, have got it wrong. Madam Mayor, this budget, and the years of completely wrong thinking behind it, isn't just a threat to this council, it's a threat to the whole of Welwyn Hatfield. Our residents are the people who pay for these services, the services that are failing. They're the ones who use our car parks, leisure facilities, support local businesses who in turn pay rates so vital to this council and who so often get so little in return. Our residents are the people that vote for this council and the government of this country. And I think it's becoming quite clear they've had enough of this and enough of you. We will not support this budget as it loads yet more financial burden onto our already over-encumbered residents.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of the opposition's input into the budget setting process, I've noted with some humour this council published via a press release its budget proposals before its own task and finish group had even finished meeting to discuss what budget proposals might be. I think that says it all. This budget is just another in a long line of budgets reflecting the simple fact, there is less money in local government. Even you don't dispute that. All services are impacted by that fact. That is obvious to anyone who uses or experiences those services, and I would hope anyone that scrutinises those services, but alas, it sounds like that's not the case. This council's repeatedly said over many years frontline services are protected. That's clearly, quite obviously, not the case. You don't even have a definition for what frontline services are, but to help you out, in my opinion, they're basically the things that people care about and campaign against this council every single time they are cut, like introducing the bin tax or putting it up to £50 like you're now doing. If a brown bin outside almost every single person's house that is collected or supposed to be collected every other week isn't a frontline service, I don't know what is. Councillor Broach asked the question, what has gotten better since the great cutback of council funding began with the Conservative Lib Dem coalition 13 years ago? I'd be genuinely interested to hear an answer to that question. I'm only in my 40s, but I can say I genuinely feel sorry for younger generations growing up here without so many of the things that we had when I grew up. For the Conservative Party, even Conservative councillors, it's all about shrinking the state, shrinking the council, shrinking the services. I fundamentally disagree with that ideology, of course, but isn't the point of that to increase freedoms and to save money? Because everything is costing more, and rather than freeing people, you seem to just be charging them left, right and centre for the things they used to get as part of their council tax bill. Every person, resident, customer and business owner is literally paying for the Conservative failure nationally and locally. It's just not working.
I'm interested in the no cuts to frontline services because I have seen many members of this chamber out litter picking. Now, I would have thought litter picking is a frontline service, keeping our towns nice, clean and recyclable. That is a frontline service, and it seems it's not being done by anybody employed by the council unless council members and volunteers of the two towns go out and do it. If you look, you see it, and you speak to the residents, you see it. As regards to frontline services, I'm sure you've all been into Welwyn Garden City Town Centre. My last count, there was 3 homeless people sleeping rough in Welwyn Garden City Town Centre. If homeless shelters are not a frontline service, then what is? And you're saying nothing's being cut, yet we have these problems in our towns. Our residents see it, our residents are upset by it, and they are being forced to pay more and nothing gets done. I'm against this budget for, once again, it is cuts to frontline services, it is increasing payments from our residents with no tangible differences being made in at least the 5 years that I have been in this chamber.
Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to rewind quickly to a point on benefit claimants, over £15 billion a year does go unclaimed in benefit claimants, and there's a huge gap in awareness. So instead of lauding that as a figure of success, maybe we could look into making access easier. Now, if you'll forgive my long political speech, I would like to chunk this up a little bit. I think it's important that we remember what this budget means, especially as we hear about the increases contained within. Someone's going to have to find more money to pay their rent, after finding more money to pay their parking permits, and then to pay to park their car so they can get to work. They'll have to find more money to continue to keep their street clean with a brown bin, and even more money at the weekend when taking their kids to the cinema. And these are just some examples among many in this budget, many rising above inflation. And of course, on that, let's not forget that the inflationary pressures being felt by this council, which is justifying such great increases to items in the budget, can be directly laid at the feet of the government's self-inflicted, ideologically driven economic failure. And the people that you're expecting to just find more, well, we know that a lot of them just can't. The government's recent advertising campaign will have you thinking it's just a case of saving a couple of pounds here, just a few quid there. But for many, there just isn't the money there to do that in the first place. Always slightly just too much month than money. And this budget doesn't help them. Good morning. Seemingly, the only people who won't have to try and find more money is the government. And this is a really important point. And this is why setting a budget is, as members opposite charitably call it, challenging and difficult. I heard recently that the last 3 years, this government has given over 700 billion to the most wealthy, which is 250 times more than it's given to local councils. And that's not fair. But does it match? But does it match their priorities? I'd argue it does. It's been said before, but it bears repeating, that the government has slashed 60p in every pound of local government spending, and we're expected to continue providing services for residents with scraps. This means budget slashed, services cut, and any ambition or aspiration to deliver more for our residents snuffed out like an old candle. As with many budgets before this, you're asking us to vote through a managed decline of services. Members opposite will no doubt celebrate the passing of this budget, pat yourselves on the back, but to the residents I talked about earlier, there'll be no such celebration. And just to say, previously, this group has amended the budget to provide more funding for parking officers. And as a point of order, Councillor Smith and Councillor Kingsbury, not to name names, are not telling the truth. Our group put forward the idea of all-out elections to save money in this budget, but looking at current polling, it's no wonder you stepped over it.
So I've just come out of the meeting. It was long, it was eventful, and I found Max still hanging around out here. Max, what did you think of it in there? It was a bit
Long?
a bit tense and long,
Well,
wasn't it? That
tense
one?
and long, yeah. So we've just come out. It's almost 11 p.m. We discussed the budget. This is going to see residents,
That was long.
Long, yeah. It's going to see residents, you, me, everyone, even further out of pocket in a cost of living crisis. People who are already struggling. We voted against this. I was really proud. I put forward a motion calling on the council to defend the right to strike, to acknowledge the hard work of workers across the borough, and the hard work of all of our residents, and for the government to get round the table and negotiate with the unions to secure a fair deal with all of the striking workers who are out at the moment, help them get a fair deal. Unfortunately, but predictably, the Conservatives voted that down. So just remember, when you needed them there for you, they weren't on your side, and when they want you to be on their side, maybe you won't be there for them. But yeah, cheers.